Hello, and welcome to the next episode of Two Girls Talk Transits. Today we're reviewing the astrology from September 1st through September 7th, and we're your host. I'm Maddie.
And I'm Kaleigh.
Welcome. So, starting off this month very cleanly on the 1st of September, we do have a lot of outer planet shifts. So, Uranus is stationing retrograde on the 1st of September, and then Pluto, who is currently retrograde, is coming back into Capricorn. And
Hmm.
so, this is just to kind of speak, I think. Well, what I think has been interesting through this period of time is that we have all the outer planets in ladder degrees, and even Pluto, when it was at 0 degrees of Aquarius, it was still really tight. Like Neptune's at 29 Pisces, Uranus is stationing at 27 Taurus, and then Pluto's moving back to 29 Cap.
Hmm.
So it's like a lot of like outer planet activity at the beginning of the month always seems to be a bit of like a foreshadowing to me, at least.
So what do you notice is like different between like when we have outer planets activated like versus inner planets?
Yeah, the inner planets are definitely more like personal issues, personal problems, what I would say, like things that you're dealing with. And then the outer planets are going to be more of it can be personal for you because it can often speak to this like long-term structuring that's going on to your life. Like Neptune is spirituality, and then Pluto is like this death rebirth. Uranus is like expanding the mind, new ideas. So it can speak to these long-term patterns, but it can also
Hmm.
speak to just like collective energies themselves rising, being more tense, dealing with whatever current government or societal issues that we have like activated at this time.
Yeah, so outer planets are like kind of like thematic elements, like things that we will experience like over a period of time that kind of can go on like behind the scenes. So, like, if Pluto would represent our subconscious, like, we can have themes of like old beliefs that we have stored that kind of like make an appearance whenever Pluto is activated, or like fears that we have from the past, or things like this. And then Neptune would be like our dreams and ideals. Was that fair to say?
Yeah, yeah,
Y-
definitely.
Yeah, so when that is activated, we have like, oh, this is like what I want to happen in the future, or like this is the long term idealized goal that I'm working towards. Uranus would be, what do you think? Like it changes, like long term changes that we want to.
Or like breakthroughs, like, like the higher mind breakthroughs, consciousness breakthroughs, or
Oh, yeah.
so. Yeah, because it's the first planet after Saturn, which is like reality. So it's like that consciousness breakthrough at first that makes the Neptune aspect accessible.
So it's more like cognitive than Neptune might be. Neptune might be like kind of the higher mind, like the higher self.
Yeah, I see Neptune as like the more spiritual, where you get the feelings, with the spirituality of like, that there is something higher, bigger, more connected. And then, but Uranus is that first step that you take where you're like opening your mind to that possibility to begin with, like
Mm.
and letting yourself explore different ways of ideas or beliefs that you haven't given an opportunity to even think about before.
Yeah, true. Yeah, because we can have like ideas and stuff, but we can kind of stuff them down.
Right. Or just not be like, oh, that's just false, instead of actually considering where does it come from and why was it said to begin with, you know?
Yeah. So Uranus like stationing retrograde at the beginning of the month. We will have some type of review about those your what is it fair to say like Uranian themes? Uranian?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Uranus retrograde happens every year. It's not a complete, big thing that you can probably track literally in your life, but it is a kind of a bit of a revisitation or review of the ways that you've expanded against your current reality and like crossed new things or had breakthroughs or like created a change or disruption in wherever Taurus is in your chart. But this is something we've been working on through since Uranus has been a Taurus since like 20, was it 26? No, it was after 2017.
I
It's
can look
2018.
really quick.
It was 2018 because I remember what job I was in at that time. Uh,
And then, yeah.
and so like this is a long-term thing, but the day that the planet stations retrograde is definitely a day where that planet itself becomes more heightened. So, we also have Pluto entering into Capricorn. And so, by whole sign aspects, if you use the Hellenistic whole sign doctrine, those two immediately get into communication. Now, they're already been in communication if you use like Richard Tarnas's orbs or so, but those two immediately get into like this trine aspect. And then so like maybe more of an eccentric day where there's some news stories that are different or something shifting with the government or some sort of disruption. I don't know, there's a lot to be said. And
Mhm.
just to note this, because I've actually noted this down and we forgot to talk about it, but to relate back to the full moon in Aquarius, because remember that full moon in Aquarius was exactly squaring Uranus, right? Uranus
Mhm.
hasn't really moved into any of degrees since then. So some of the things that came up during that full moon in Aquarius, Trump and Taylor Swift. Did you see that?
No. Oh, I did where Trump like said that Taylor Swift like advocates for him or something.
It was so there was these AI images, obviously. Aquarius, very fitting. And also Uranus. That's the theme of Uranus. If you use Uranus and Aquarius as ruler, you can even say that. But AI, there were some fake Taylor Swift AI images that were that were saying that she supported Trump. And he was just going off about that. And then it was like, oh, she's gonna sue you because that was not true. And then he's like trying to backtrack. It was just funny.
Did she end
Uh,
up suing him or doing anything about it? I didn't hear about that.
I mean there was a big threat. So I don't know, probably. I didn't follow up. I don't care that much, but
Yeah, but it's interesting to know like for the day. Yeah.
yeah, for that full moon. And two, there was another issue with AI for that full moon as well. They're making a new Snow White movie. And instead of casting actual dwarfs or people, there was a lot of issues with that. They decided to just do CGI dwarfs, which is a huge uproar now for that community because now you're just dismissing them as real and just
Mm.
using fakeness.
Well, too, I mean, I feel like it could also like provide the, I don't know, what do you call like people that are shorter? I don't know like the politically correct term.
On this page, it just says real little people.
Okay. Well, anyways, that could have been like a job opportunity for them.
Right. Well, that was the whole argument of like, well, then there was the argument of, do you know the Game of the God? It's so bad, I don't know his name. The Game of Thrones, they had like a dwarf guy with dwarfism, the
Oh, I
chosen,
know. I don't know.
he was
Yeah.
kind of speaking out like, oh, well, we shouldn't be used as like props or like kind of fictional characters. Like we are real people too, like speaking out for his collectivism, very Aquarius, his society, his thing. And so they're like, oh, fine, we won't use you at all. We'll use AI. And then,
Dang,
no.
it's like, but there's not a win-win. It seems like it's just like a loss either way. You know, Willy Wonka had a bunch of little people.
Yeah. So I don't know. I just thought again, that's a very good full moon Aquarius theme. And then the last thing that I'll just say is the IRS is in a huge issue because they had an audit, they had like a security audit, tech audit, and most of the materials, a lot of the systems and software that they're using is more than 60 years old to process people's tax returns and obviously our social security numbers, which mine and people I know have been stolen many times. So like
They gotta update things. I mean, what the heck?
so that's a big full moon of like, hey, our government is using shitty technology. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
so go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say, like, I could see, the Uranus stationing retrograde on this day can bring up a lot of those familiar themes from that full moon.
Yeah, we can have like a period of like reform around like some things that we need to change or ways that we need to update technology or, be a little bit more. what do you call that? Not recent, but recent.
Advanced, progressive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. And then so moving into that trine aspect with Pluto, that can also be like major shift.
Yeah, that's what I would involve a lot of like, yeah, it would definitely intensify it. It will involve a lot of authority, power structures, so probably our government. So like, Pluto's been in a trine with Uranus. So, if you use the bigger wars, which you should for outer planets, but I don't know, just something about Pluto moving into an earth sign as well. It makes Capricorn is not as available to change as Aquarius is. At least Aquarius is trying to have more forethought.
Mm-hmm.
So that
Yeah,
may be
could
like,
be
hey,
some push.
you
Yeah.
actually have to make this change now. And it's like, no.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like yeah, Capricorn's kind of stubborn, but I think Pluto will only be there. I was looking before. It will only be retrograde to Capricorn until November 21st, and then it's moving back into Aquarius.
Which, this is our election season.
So true.
So very literal for United States. Yeah, I mean it's that I think even if it's only going to be a short period of time, that means that these 3 months, 2.5 months are going to be intense.
Yeah, I could see that though. I mean, towards election season or elections in general, things get quite intense.
Yeah. So
Hmm.
we shall see.
Yeah, just something to pay attention to. So, then following on September 2nd, we have the new moon in Virgo.
Yes, so I will share my little chart real quick, but this new moon is, it's cute. It's at 11 degrees of Virgo here.
Mm-hmm.
Mercury, the ruler of the new moon, is back in Leo, but direct. So there's a little bit of more forward momentum,
Yeah.
and there's a little bit of a relationship between the sun and Mercury there in each other's side, so that mutable perception.
Mm-hmm.
Venus is in Libra at 5 degrees. The full or the new moon is opposite Saturn at 16 degrees of Pisces. So that is one thing that I think we should pay attention to is like there is this newer beginning that you're cultivating in Virgo, but you're doing so alongside of a lot of limitations or
Yeah.
potential restrictions. What would you say?
Yeah, I would agree with you with that aspect to Saturn there. I would think that we're yeah, having some type of limitation or like details that we have to take care of. Also with the moon being in Virgo, very detail oriented. We're just gonna have to pay attention to like the fine print in a way.
Yeah, it's like getting very serious about these big details, but also knowing that you kind of have to come against, you really have to get your shit together because it's like Saturn is like this judge at the end. Like you're about to be judged so hard for all this new work that you want to do in this fall or whatever you're cultivating under this new moon. Like there's a lot of pressure. I feel like Saturn's just like on the opposite end, like staring down, like marking every wrong move.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel like I'm thinking now, do you feel like so like this is the, the new moon. We have this aspect with Saturn. Do you feel like that aspect or this like energetic imprint like carries us through like the moon cycle as it moves towards the full moon? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah, no, I do. Most likely, yes, because yeah, the full moon is in Pisces. It is further away than Saturn, but it may be something that kind of marks this whole lunation. Like the reason we talk about these new moons and full moons in astrology is because it does cover the next 2 weeks. Like it marks a cycle. Your
Hmm.
astrology is really used cycles. So like this new moon cycle opposite Saturn. Yeah, you're right. Like for this cycle, for this lunation period, it is like maybe this theme that we feel constantly coming against boundaries or restrictions or things that we have to level up against.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. We'll be coming just in close contact with Saturn in general. So that can be like governing bodies or contracts or, like just things that we have to figure out, like the technicalities of things.
Hmm.
I think Virgo's
Rules.
right. And I think Virgo season in general is like a very big refinement period.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Mhm.
I immediately cleaned my closet out when the sun entered Virgo, like unintentionally, but I did.
I know, right? Like, I have a bunch of, like, open projects that I know I'm gonna get finished this season.
Yeah, so it is a big it's more serious for sure. I think the full moon or this new moon, as I keep saying, full moon. It's just too because it's setting the theme too for eclipse season. The next lunation we probably have in Virgo is going to be an eclipse. So, oh,
Interesting. Yeah,
yeah.
our eclipses are moving to a new axis. So
Mhm.
they were previously in the Libra Aries axis. Now they're going to be moving to Virgo Pisces axis. So we'll be experiencing a change in like a new area of our life.
Yes, exactly.
Hmm.
So this new moon will probably give you a little bit of a hint for that. Um, it is the last little thing, is that around the same day it technically goes exact, like early on the 3rd, but Mars and Gemini is making a square with Neptune.
Hmm.
So, it's not in a degree based aspect with the new moon, but it is in that whole sign square aspect, T square aspect. And I talked a lot about that T square um before, but there is something that is a little bit uncertain or probably confusing or ungrounded about the new moon and the actions that you want to take. Like you're probably being very intentional about your plan, but then actually going forward on it is probably having a little bit of confusion or rockiness or just unclarity there.
Yeah, absolutely. Like Mars in daily life represents like that drive that we're using to go forward. What actionable steps do we want to make towards our plans and ideas and future life? And making that aspect with Neptune, especially as square, is just going to bring confusion to the whole mix. We're just going to be like, I'm not actually 100% clear on where or why I'm going in this specific direction, but it's kind of like a trust the process moment, I feel.
Yeah, it definitely is. And it's not like Mars is going to be giving us any sort of help for the
Right.
rest of this year.
No,
So
it's not.
like I
Yeah.
mean, if you're just confused, you're taking confused action, well, at least you're just doing something. I don't know. Like there's no way to like negate this. I would say like you can't just sit back and wait for the rest of the year and not do anything. Like you're gonna have to take some action. You're just gonna have to be like you said, like, here we go. Like
Yeah, I mean, especially because like Mars and Gemini, I'm not sure if we talked about this last podcast. I think we might have, but Mars and Gemini like wants to go in so many different directions.
hmm Yeah, it
So,
does.
yeah, there can just be like confusion over like which direction do I want to go? And then we move into that like in a couple days, I guess maybe next week, the week following this one, or is it it
No,
might be
Mars moves
later.
into Cancer. What are you asking?
Yeah, Mars moving into Cancer. Let me
On the
see.
4th, so literally 2 days after this new moon.
Yeah. So Mars and Cancer will be like more emotionally based action. Like we'll be making more decisions based on our feelings instead
Mm.
of our like logical mind or cognitive brain. And I think that is also going to be a little bit confusing.
Yeah, it is. So like we have this new moon that's probably really, just past a Mercury retrograde, probably wanting to make a really structured direction and plan. But then the initial actions is messy, unclear. And then too, on the next day or on the 3rd of September, then we have Venus meeting the South Node, and she is in Libra. And Venus in Libra is helpful for our Venus and or Libra and Taurus areas of our life. But on the South Node, that's generally like a release of good things or like a letting go of that ease. So it's like this period of time is kind of challenging,
Hmm.
you know?
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to that aspect, I think. Um, yeah. I think we had talked about this a little bit before the podcast about the South Node and Venus meeting. And Maddie mentioned how, as Venus represents like our relationship and our relational dynamics with people in our community, especially being in the sign of Libra, we just might face some challenges here with like relying on our community or relying on people to be of help or be of service to us. So we might on this day feel like we have to dip our toes into that other side of the axis, into that Aries realm to be more independent than we might want to be.
Yeah, I think that's a beautiful way to put it is, around this period of time, it may just feel kind of like you're a little alone in this process. Like this journey that you're on is not a fully supported one. And so you have to take a little bit more independence. And it's just a day. Venus and Libra is still a very helpful placement, but for that day, she is going to kind of be taking a break.
My gosh, I just thought of something too. Like we have like the okay, so we have the North Node in Aries and South Node is in Libra, and I feel like just being in the US, like I feel like we're all kind of realizing like the downfall of like individualistic culture. And I
Mm,
feel like that very much speaks to like the Libra South Node is like we want to be more communal, I think, but we're having to let go of that in some way in order for like our society to function because we are a country that's based off of individualism. And I don't know. I just found it, yeah, I just thought about it and was like, wow, that's really interesting.
No, that's a really good point. And just too, because that's an interesting point, because the last eclipse that we have in Libra is this October.
Oh, interesting.
Right. And so, I mean, Venus will be in Scorpio, but that's that last eclipse that we're having in Libra. And like it's this October, and like in the midst of everything that's going on, I think it is like a real big, like, yeah, trying to find your power in
Mhm.
this. Your community is kind of being splintered.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, we're trying kind of all being asked in a way to like find our individualism,
Hmm.
maybe as it stands apart from our community or apart from even like the bigger system in
Yeah.
general.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So interesting little point there.
Mhm.
But then just moving on, like you said, on September 4th, that's when Mars enters into Cancer. And yes, that is the place of Mars's fall, because Mars is exalted in Capricorn, which is the sign
Mhm.
opposite Cancer. And so the place of a fall is when we say, planets just do not have the resources. Planets are everything in astrology. They are the cause and effect of everything in astrology. And so they all have their goals and their agenda, and Mars's agenda is neglected in Cancer because nobody wants to fight and argue in Cancer. They just want to be comfortable and
Exactly. Yeah.
eat food.
Yeah, Cancer is like like there are a couple signs I think that could represent comfort, but Cancer is like a big comfort sign.
Yeah.
So throwing it's like, Cancers would be like sitting around like the TV with some popcorn and like some blankets and cuddling up with their family. And then it's like the guys with like the machine guns come in and they're like, hey, we gotta fight. And Cancer's like, what the hell?
It is, it is. It's like just such a hard place for Mars, because it's like we're not doing this here. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know why. So when we have planets in those positions, then they end up having to be more creative with their expression. So usually Mars, instead of being a direct instigator, is going to have to be more passive aggressive. Like, I'm going to withhold
Yeah.
food from you until you do this, or I'm going to withhold this, or, like you has to be more creative. So it's not to say that planets in fall and detriment can't be a strong planet, because there are plenty of fighters with like Mars and Taurus. It's just that they have to do about it in a different way. So the ways that we start to take action starting September 4th is going to have to be a lot more involving our feelings and making sure we feel aligned with our actions, I think.
Yeah, it's like emotional manipulation,
Yeah, for
which
sure.
is, it's just as hurtful as like, if anybody's ever experienced like emotional abuse, that's like just as bad as
Yeah.
physical abuse. So, yeah,
Yeah.
but like you said, maybe people are having to get a little bit more creative with how they take action, or maybe like we just have to make sure that whatever like direction we decide to go in is like feels okay, like feels comfortable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Mhm.
So that's the start of Mars Cancer. We'll talk more about him for sure there, so
Yeah,
don't worry.
Mars is gonna be in Cancer for a little bit, and then it's gonna retrograde back into Cancer.
Yeah, it will
So
go.
we're
Yeah,
gonna be
so
Mars in Cancer for a while.
yeah, don't worry. You'll
Mm.
learn so much about it, more than you want to.
Right.
Um, but then the last aspect of RASPA this week is on September 7th, and Mercury progresses to square Uranus for the third and final time. Um, this is where we probably get that last little bit of information about the Uranus station and the full moon as well.
Mm.
Mercury kind of bringing in what did you miss? Like what things that you forgot about or missed during this retrograde, and it's like giving that little bit of shocking revelation or so.
Yeah, and this is like Mercury's in the final degrees of Leo here. We'll
27, yeah.
Yeah, we'll be switching out in like a couple days after this. So it will be kind of like that final um just information that you need maybe to to wrap up what Mercury has been doing for a little bit until it shifts.
Yeah, and just too, because Mercury is ruling the moon has moved on at this time.
Mhm.
But the sun, and so, this may also impact a bit with your new moon intentions. If you made a new moon kind of goal or intention, this may give you a little more of a kickstart to it. I think maybe potentially because it was like such a slow start with that new moon with the
Mhm.
Mars squaring Neptune. This may actually feel more momentum with
Yeah, like
this.
activated maybe.
Yeah, like an
Mhm.
activation. Because Uranus too is always like associated with like lightning and like quick
Mm,
strikes of things. So it's like you've been shocked and now you're ready to go kind of thing.
yeah. Yeah, I could see that. So that'll be an interesting week. I feel like neither good nor bad. Kind of like
Right.
yeah, kind of a neutral, not neutral. I mean, it'll definitely have its like roller coaster as any week does, but um yeah, it's a mixed bag.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's I think what this week is doing is just setting us up for, this new shift that we're having with the eclipse season coming up. So that's all it's doing. It's getting all the planets in their new places.
Yeah, that's true. I'm interested for things to shift with the eclipse. Interested how that will happen. We get so not used to, but we get so like comfortable with the themes that are happening like in previous eclipses. Um, so when the like eclipses change, it's like, whoa. I wasn't used to like that area of my life being activated.
Yeah, it is always kind of like a new thing of that nature. So,
Mm-mm.
I don't know.
Cool.
Well, this wraps up our week. We have something exciting to announce to you all
Mm-hmm.
for our next progression of life, per se. You know, both of us have been studying astrology for quite a few years and kind of want to offer that kind of crash course of everything you can learn about astrology and in a format in a way that's good for personal development and healing because Kaleigh offers a lot with counseling and art therapy and healing. So we're launching a 6-month program that is going to be 6 months starting at the end of September, where I will be teaching you everything that I know about astrology from the very basics to some timing and prediction techniques that I use for the 6 months. And then Kaleigh alongside will be taking that a step further in your own chart. And I mean, I'll let her speak for her portion here.
Yeah, we can. So your own chart is like a great way to like reflect on just like life themes and life patterns. And, when you get like a chart reading, it's kind of like somebody speaking at you and you kind of like receiving the information. But through the program, you kind of learn to break down your own chart, and then you need somebody to like explore those themes with. Like,
Mhm.
what happened in my life and what are the different things that I went through and how did I experience these different energies? And yeah, the work with me is just based on doing that like internal exploration, and we use the themes that we learn through Maddie's astrological program, and then um, we expand on it with yeah, just personal development and also using art therapy stuff to just like get really into learning about ourselves.
Yeah, I love that because like what you'll learn about astrology is that astrology is synchronal. It all works in circles. There's always a cycle. So you're always coming out of a cycle and going into a new one. And so what you will do with Kaylee is like, okay, so you just left this really big cycle knowing this, like what did you learn from it? And learning how to use astrology as like a language, but also as that tool, that language that helps explain your circumstances in life and then how you're healing and can work with it or negate it in that
Mhm.
way. Oh,
Yeah. So it's a perfect like blended program if you want to learn astrology and you also want to like, heal and clear some things and, kind of like set yourself up for like just like be very intentional with like what you want to bring in the future and who you want to be. Yeah, I think it's like a beautiful program for that. So, yeah, we will be launching that, I believe, what was it, September
22nd is our
22nd.
goal.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, if you're interested and you want to learn more, it is a commitment, it's a time commitment. There are weekly things that we'll be doing. We'll have breaks for the holidays and stuff, but definitely a time commitment. It's live, it's with us, so it's a lot of attention with us, and it's going to be a small group of people is our goal. So, if you're interested, just send us a DM. We have a little form. We also have like a link now on our TikTok because we have 1,000 TikTok followers. Oh my
Uh,
gosh.
yeah, Maddie's been doing so good with that.
So there's that link on both our Instagram and our TikTok now to look at the form, fill out the form if you're interested, and then we'll be in touch to talk about it more and move from that direction, see if you're a good fit for it.
Yeah.
Okay, so to do that, check us out at either TikTok or Instagram at Two Girls Talk Transits. YouTube videos are available on our YouTube as well, Two Girls Talk Transits, for sure.
Yes, yes. And you can find Maddie at maddie.delray, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep,
Yep. On Instagram and her website, maddiedelray.com. Sorry I did it for you. And then
it's
you
okay.
can you can find me healed out on earth on Instagram.
All right, y'all. Well, we'll see you next week.
Alrighty, bye.